Okay, so lunch is over. Hope you all had a good meal. Not too good, so not to fall asleep during the next lectures, but I'm sure you won't on this one. It's going to be exciting, hopefully. So, we were talking about incidents earlier, how detection, triage, how do we triage something which alerts us by why start there? Why start when incidents already happen? Why not look for incidents? Well, our next speaker will actually talk about hunting for threats. So he used to work for an MSP, so for modeling cyber, and now he's using that knowledge to threat hunt in his new company. So please welcome Filip Rapaić.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for such warm welcome. I hope you're ready for this presentation. I decided to choose this topic as it's quite interesting when you step up from small organizations to enterprise environments and everything in between. What are the challenges that arise during searches, and how to adapt your mindset to those environments? Initial idea was that I would have one specific technical example, but unfortunately I can't use it. So I had to change it to a little bit more, is it, just a second. Oops, 2 minutes, okay. But I had to change it. So today I will talk a little bit more about mindset and how to adapt to the environment you are searching for. So I'm currently working as a detection and incident response member at Mirion Technologies, which is a company based in US, primarily focusing on manufacturing, researching radiation, medical procedures, and detectors for nuclear power plants. Currently, I have a little bit over 7 years of experience in defensive roles, which varied from malware analysis, reverse engineering, incident response, detection engineering, and much more. So I gathered this experience through MSP, which proved quite useful in my current role. So have you been hunting lately? I don't know how many of you do threat hunts, and do you do it once a week, once a month, once a year? Or do you have some specific schedule? Or, I don't know, you have an hour or two of free time and you decide to just give it in and see what you can find. How often does it turn into ad hoc querying? So you don't have any specific hypothesis that you're trying to find, to discover, and you just start to write queries. So for example, I want to see if some CMD has been executed, PowerShell, network connections, and so on, which won't give you any specific depth. Where do you get stuck? I know there is a typo. I forgot to change it, so don't mind it. So where do you get stuck? Do you find yourself that you don't know what's the next step you want to search for? Do you have enough information? Do you understand the context of what you're searching for? This is one of the most common pitfalls when you do threat hunting. And lastly, did you meet your expectations? This one has proved to me as one of more on the motivational side. If, for instance, if you're doing threat hunting, you don't find anything, or you're not meeting your expectations, with the time your will to do threat hunting will steadily decline. And in the end, you will just do it for the sake of doing it. So let's start from the beginning. When we start threat hunting, first thing that we need to have is hypothesis. So we need to specifically define what do we want to search for. After that comes writing queries. If you know a lot about the environment, you write a query 1, 2, 3, or more, depending on what you're specifically searching for, and then you run it. You open your SIEM, you open your XDR, open whichever tool you're using, and you just you copy paste it, press run, and magic happens. Computer does its magic, and you find something, and you're happy. But there is also a possibility that you don't find anything, and then most likely you'll be disappointed because you spent hours doing something And which comes to the last point from the previous slide, it is about expectations. This is the one simple sentence that I tend to use when I do threat hunting, that expectations are root of the disappointment. By this, I don't mean that you have to look for the best but prepare for the worst, not that extreme. But you need to be aware of what your findings might be or might not be. So the reality of results varies. Sometimes you find something, sometimes you don't. But unfortunately, the truth about threat hunting is that most hunts fail even before they have started. I mean, you can do your threat hunt set, but there are a couple of things that you need to take in consideration. First of all, when you define a hypothesis, you perhaps were not specific enough. You did not use any constraints or conditions just to narrow down the field. And you might end up with open-ended results. You have imperfect data. That's everywhere situation. I haven't seen any environment which this is not true. But this, I mean, you have logs, right? You ingest that in CM in any other solution. And what tends to happen is that it's not parsed properly. You have one field name here, another field name there, or you just have raw data which you can't use properly as perhaps text search is not working as it should be. You have partial visibility. This adjacent a little bit to this previous one. When you're threat hunting, and let's say you use some tools which are, let's say, something in the way of lens sweeper, that you need to find some devices into network and gather more information about it. What about situation if lens sweeper can't access those devices, or those devices can't send logs to your CM? You will have a blind spot, and you might don't know what to do next. There are also different operational constraints. These are a little bit different, as they are real-world things that you can't influence, such as if the CM is working properly, if it's fast enough, if you have a lot of work. I mean, tasks can jump in at any second, and you might stop doing what you're doing. So this is also that has to be taken into the account. And of course, time pressure. Everyone wants everything quick and fast, but this doesn't work in that way. So time pressure is something that everyone feels because we all have 24 hours a day, 8 hours of job, and you have a lot of work to do. And just to fit a threat hunting in, it's quite a challenge. And lastly, complexity of the environment. So environments may vary from small environments where you have 50 devices to 10,000 plus devices with thousands of users, cloud dependency, and so on. So you need to know the context of what you are looking at. So basically, what changes as organizations grow? First of all, data volume. For instance, you have small environment, 100 users, 50 PCs, some servers. You will have enough data to go through to search for something, but it won't be as much. But on the other hand, if you look at some enterprise environment, what you will find is that the amount of data that you get in a day in a small environment is like 5 minutes in the big one. Identity surface. Identities are today everything, especially if you're looking at small organization and the big one. Number will just rise because the sheer number of people, access rules, and all other possibilities that might trigger identity. And ownership boundaries. Small environment, everyone knows who owns everything. So you know which server is owned by who. While in the, let's say, enterprise environment, it's not as simple because you have a lot of people, a lot of organizational structures, and it will take a couple of steps. And of course, context availability. Context is something that helps you understand not only what organization is doing, but whether the process of what you're searching for is adequate. You won't search for, I don't know, network connections from some air-gapped environment to the internet. I mean, yes, you can, but I'm certain that you will have some detection rule that will detect that. So you need to adjust your threat hunting set to a specific area. And of course, speed of feedback. If you're in a small environment, you can just take your phone, hey, listen, we found this, can you confirm that this is legit or not? And they will tell you, because they know they're doing that. While in the bigger organization, this gets more complex because you don't know the whole structure, all organizational units, and sometimes in the worst case scenario, you have to submit a ticket which will then bounce around for a day or two, and it will just waste your precious time. So some small environments, lower number of devices, we know what's going on, we know the users, we know who we can ask for something specific just to get the better context of it. Informal communication, this one has to be one of my most favorite things, because when I work like that, it was the easiest thing to call someone and tell them, okay, listen, we'll open a ticket a little bit later, let me just confirm whether this is legitimate or not. Faster context, you don't have so much information to go through to understand what's going on, because every organization is different, complexity is different, and here we can easily go through everything. And as you don't have that many endpoints, you don't have so much telemetry to go through, your SIEM will work properly, you will have enough time to process data, even though if you're looking for 6 months period of time, which might be a little bit troublesome in bigger organizations. So now we have growing medium-sized environments. So first thing, number of devices grow, number of users grows, people get employed. You need to have some sort of identity management. You need to have access rules for some specific groups. For instance, I might not need access to, I don't know, HR internal software where they have all the employees' information, but only to access to the SIEM, to some, let's say, portals in Azure, Defender consoles, whatever. Then we have emerging organizational silos. So I don't know if you've heard about this, but basically these are departments inside the organization. So you have marketing, you have HR, you have security, you have IT, and all of those become identity for their own. And to get information from them, you need a good point of contact. You need to have a good communication with them, and just basically be on good terms with them. Next thing, we have tool sprawl. So number of tools that are used inside the organization rapidly grows. And especially when the organization is developing, you will find yourself in a situation where one user is using, I don't know, Visual Studio Code. The other one is using JetBrains or whatever other IDE can be. And they're basically doing the same thing, for example, for same programming language. But the issue with that is someone doesn't like the interface of the another, or thinks that resources might be overwhelming. So this is where things tend to get complicated. And of course, partial logging, as number of systems grows. If you don't have policy about logging, agent installation, which pull logs, you might find yourself where you don't have that agent on all devices, and basically you will have blind spots. And now we come to the best part, actually, enterprise environments, for which I thought it was way too complex. And in reality, it is. But the great thing about is the possibilities that you have. So first of all, complexity grows exponentially. I mean, if you have 10,000 users, I don't know how many thousands of devices, you can basically take a finger, like you roll the globe and just point at something. You might find it, because just the pure amount of data, it's astonishing. Identity sprawls, well, of course, we know all about tiering models and the importance of that. So in this type of organizations, you might find yourself that you have 5, 6, or 7 accounts which are special, with special access to some part of organization. You won't have the same account to go through to everything, but that will a little bit, in a way, it will make your hunting a little bit easier, but also a little bit harder, because you need to look all the activities from the very same user. Cross-boundary trust, Well, if you're having some devices that are purely on-premise, if you have hybrid, if you have cloud solution, you know, AWS and Azure, basically communicating together, you need to know what are normal things and what is expected to happen and what might be the issue. And of course, fragmented ownership, which is a little bit tricky because you never know who's the fully owner of some specific, I don't know, host or service or some testing environment. And telemetry overload, this is usually a thing at the enterprise environments, but it can also happen in smaller. Because if you don't set configurations for log collecting, you might end up with thousands of, well, millions of logs of which are just noise, which don't mean anything, like status info okay. I mean, that you won't collect that because it's just useless. So, and that tends to happen in this kind of environments. So when we're looking at the threat hunting on these different scales, things change. And I use 3 extremely simple examples just to show you how to do, what does it mean. So these are following. At first, we have some detection on one server, which is, let's say, file share, and someone has accessed it. And in small environment, what will happen? You're searching for that, and okay, I found connection to that some user has connected, has copied some files, and I'll be like, yeah, I'll take my phone, call, hey, listen, is this normal for this user? Or call that very user, hey, did you do that? In enterprise, it might be unclear. You have the user, but you need to find the context of that user. Is he someone who actually works in the department that is using that file share? Does he have the right to use the data, to copy it, to modify it, or anything else? So at first, it's unclear, but it takes time to unravel it. Next one, let's say we have a service account which does something 12 times a day, you know, like every 2 hours. And let's say that we have noticed that every day at 2 p.m. it just launches 15 minutes or 10 minutes later than usual. So in smaller environments, it's easier to determine whether this is something malicious or not, because it can be some sort of, I don't know, network overload because some backup is going through. It might be actually something malicious that some actor has made some configuration. And in enterprise, it's hard to baseline, especially if you have work all over the actually offices all over the world, because for example, we had some situation in Japan for one service account, and it turned out it was just basically nothing malicious, but it was something worth investigating. While in the, let's say, US, it's usual activity. And is it easy to trace the identity? Well, in small environments, it's straightforward. You have limited number of users. You know exactly who works where and how to get to them. In the enterprise, it's complex. You have daily people who are arriving, who are leaving. You don't know which device has been wiped, has been freshly installed. Where does that user live? Does he travel a lot? Perhaps you have someone who likes to, let's say he's from US and likes to go to travel to, I don't know, let's say Asia, and he's in Japan, works from there, connects to VPN. Is it normal? Is it not? It gets complex here. And that's basically the gist of it, to know that everything can be adapted to, but not in the easiest way possible. So now we have different environments, but same approach. If you're doing threat hunting, hypothesis is good written hypothesis is a must, because you will find yourself looking for something and just looking for it, and it will last, and it will last for days, right? So this is another sentence that I like to use about threat hunting, that it is search space reduction under constraints. What does it mean? I don't know if any of you have used this formal term or not, but space reduction, actually space search, those are different entities inside organizations which you can use in order to help yourself to find something that you're looking for. For instance, let's do just a quick hypothesis, right? So we have identities. Identities are everywhere. You know, everyone has one in the organization. Let's say we want to check if administrators are doing something, administrator accounts are doing something suspicious. So let's say we'll take it, I don't know, everyone who has access to connect and to execute some sort of files on different machines. Next one, okay, so we have administrators. Next one, let's say we want to check if those administrator accounts have connected to servers, or better yet, to workstations of people who work in finance. Okay, so we narrowed down the scope. And let's say time. Time is, you know, it can be 5 days, 5 minutes, 6 months, a year, depending on your log's capability. But let's, for the sake of this case, let's say last week. So we will also narrow it down. We already have hosts, we already have who are we searching for, what are we searching for, where are we searching for, actions. So we can also add this layer to say, okay, let's see if someone has opened a file, or someone has copied a file, or deleted something. So there is a lot of possibility to improve that. And of course, context. Some administrator might log into that workstation, and let's say he deleted something. And it turns out it's not malicious, because someone has broken files, broken links, or something, and an administrator had to step in just to clear it up. So it might be malicious, it might not. But you have a possibility to narrow it down as much as possible to help yourself find if something is right or wrong. And basically, what we're looking for are signals. I will cover signals a little bit later. So when you're scaling up your research, actually organization size, what thinking scales up perfectly. You know, you can always adjust yourself. For instance, you want to think, okay, I have a limited number of devices. I have a little bit more, but I can make a little bit better constraints. Structural reasoning is the good one, because you allow yourself to, you know, as we mentioned before, you're making structure, you're making logical decisions, you know how to process all this information. And when you need to talk with someone to gather additional information, it's easy to communicate, especially if you have some sort of communication matrix, because if you have to use ticketing systems to get to the person who is responsible for something, it's not as good as you might think. And lastly, you have freedom to search and be creative. So when you have smaller number of devices, you can search for some specific things. But when you have some larger environment, especially enterprise, it's just playground. You can pick anything and just go nuts with it. You search for whatever you want. And that's one of the best things that I like regarding this topic. So, but also there are things that are not so good while scaling up. At the start I mentioned ad hoc queries, right? Everyone tends to do them. I used to do them, I still do them. It's nothing embarrassing, but they do not scale well, because the larger organization, the more results you will have, especially if the query is not properly written and search space reducted. If you're using single tool, for instance, you prefer some XDR console over, let's say, CM, you will find yourself that XDR console might not have the access to the site that you want, to devices that you're looking for, and it will just waste your time without possibility of ever taking it back. And I'm also guilty of this one, so context switching. So you want to search for something, and then during threat hunting, oh, this is shiny, I'll just start looking for this. And you just end up going all over the place without any real results, and you will just find yourself wasting time, and you will be, in the end, you will be disappointed because you didn't find anything. And open-ended hypothesis, I mean, if you don't define, well, let's say that for that administrator account connecting to finance workstation, if we ended up there, we would have enormous amount of logs. Well, maybe not enormous, but we'll have a lot of logs to go through. And we will just have a lot of noise of forest which you can go through and which will just slow you down and you won't find anything. And after all of this, when to stop a hunt? This is also really important when we talk in context of time. When we reach the defined hypothesis, so we have, as per previous example, we have found out that someone has been connected and it turned out to be malicious. We know what's the next step. We have reached our hypothesis. We put a check mark. Uncertainty is reduced. So this one is a little bit more tricky because when you're searching for something, you will know that, you have a hunch that something's going on, but you can't prove it. And you decide to go through all of the logs that you have, and just the amount of data you'll go through is enormous. And in the end, you won't have exact solution. Is it something malicious? Does it exist, or it doesn't? But you will have uncertainty reduced. So you will know that something might be happening, but let's say you don't have enough information or logs to support your hypothesis. You will be, okay, I know that this is certainly not happening, but the smaller part might still be in question for searching. So you reduce it and you know what your next steps, where is it to improve data logging or some other improvements. Exit condition reached. This one I called went through loop. Like you will go through logs and search for something constantly, rotating through one another, and you'll find yourself back at the start and you think, okay, I'll try something different, but you end up on the same result and you need to know when to cut your losses, right? Because you will just go in circles without reaching anything exactly. Expanding the search. This one took a lot of time for me because I started hypothesis, went down, didn't find anything, but I was eager to find anything, and you know, let's just spread a little bit more the scope of the search, and then a little bit more, and basically you end up with a bunch of logs that means nothing, and you're again disappointed. And of course, out of time, it's self-explanatory. I mean, everyone has a lot of tasks to do, and when you're doing threat hunting, it's often not priority, so when something comes in, you always take that. Now, okay, we have defined everything. We have defined hypothesis. We have defined ending. We know what we are looking for. So, but exactly what are we searching for? Those are signals, as I mentioned on several slides before. So signals are basically logs which will tell you if something is happening or not. So strong signals are clear malicious intent. You know, someone opened malicious email, downloaded malicious file, ran it, and infected the PC. It's high confidence indicator. You know, if it happens, it happens. You know, it's malicious. There is no ambiguity about it, and you know what are your next steps. And they're rare and loud, so it's kind of easy to find out about them. And now weak signals. Weak signals are, well, really interesting to find because they represent slightly unusual behaviors. As I mentioned, that service account which might be drifting for 10-15 minutes at one point of the day, but it might not be malicious. Here comes in the context if it's dependent, you know, for instance. So if the network has been clogged, some tasks might not go through, and that's the reason why it wasn't detected. And it's pattern-based. It doesn't have to be one specific event. It can be many events through a day, through a month, through a year, throughout any type of constraint that you decide. This one is not based on some specific information data that I have found, but this is just general representation of complexity of threat hunting. So the blue line shows, so from small organization to enterprise level, complexity rises. You will have a lot more data, a lot more identities to go through. And the red line is signal ratio to noise. So in smaller environments, you will have a lot more signals that you can detect because the sheer amount of logs that you have. So you won't have many. And as the organization rises, grows, expands, you will find yourself with a lot of noise, with a lot of questionable data, and generally those weak signals are even harder to find. So why strong signals scale better? I mean, this is basically true because they're easier to automate. You know, if you're having, you can easily make detection rule. You can, if you have some indicators, you can apply them to your system, which will be later detected. You know what they're supposed to do. For instance, if you're having someone who has failed to log into some service a number of times in a short period of time, it's a clear indicator, it's a clear signal that something malicious is going on. Low ambiguity, you know what that's for, what it's used for, if it's malicious, if it's not. And you have clear ownership. As I mentioned, that user who downloaded some executable from email, ran it, you have clear steps who did what. And weak signals are harder to track. So this single small drift from baseline is quite hard to detect, especially as organization grows. Usual activities are, let's say, baseline, but without proper logging and understanding the context of the environment, you will get lost with this one. So, and context is fragmented. You have many organizational units. As I mentioned, someone is from marketing, HR, finance, developers. Developers can have production environments, testing environment. So there is a lot of possibilities and information that you have to gather. Logs can be inconsistent. Some might not be parsed well, some might be, some which you should collect, you might not collect. And that's something that you will find out through hunting. And noise is growing rapidly. There is the amount of data that should be possible to reduce, but it isn't, is enormous, especially when you work on the enterprise environment. And hunting basically lives here. It's a combination of strong signals, so which are usually used for detection engineering, actual detection, and weak signals for hunting. So hunting operates where strong signals don't exist yet. And this is your search space that you're looking for. You won't often search for some malicious file because most likely your antivirus will detect it or any other security product. But these activities that are kind of suspicious, maybe yes, maybe not, these are one you are looking for. And one of common misconception that I hear and heard a lot of is that every hunt must produce malicious finding. It doesn't. If you find something malicious every time, in the end you will end up turning off the network, turning all the servers, workstations, and everything will be fine, right? If you have more data, it doesn't mean you will get better results. It means that most likely you will have more noise, which will enable you to search properly. And hunting is writing queries. Well, technically it is, but the difference is that it's structured and with special purposes, not just random. I'll sit down, I'll search now for command lines, I'll search now for network connections, I'll search if someone is playing video games or something. And the best one that I had isn't threat hunting just glorified detection engineering. Well, when I get this question, I often say this. Exploration tolerates uncertainty. Operationalization requires definition. And this is something how I differ the threat hunting from detection engineering. And why is that? When we have exploration, exploration is investigative. You're researching. You're searching for something that you don't know if it might exist or not. It is open-ended. You don't know where you will end up. You will, I don't know, you might start searching DHR, you will end up in someone's workstation who doesn't have any remote connection to DHR. And it is hypothesis-driven. You know exactly what you want to find, and you change that every time. While operationalization, it's formalizing logic. So if you have some, let's say it's a result, if you have some threat hunt which was successful and can be repeated, you can create a detection rule. And thus, you reduce that search space requirement. Converting knowledge into repeatable detection, as I mentioned. And of course, you can automate correlation, especially if you're using some advanced features, which will allow you to be more productive. And of course, there is trial and error. These are the most common things which I have been myself and which cost me a lot of time, but in the end, it worked out. So first of all, explicit scope definition. If you don't define it, you will find yourself searching for who knows what. You might end up just going on and on without end. You have to have defined end goal. So you want to find something. Well, actually, those can be two things. First one, I want to have finding that someone is using command line who shouldn't be using it. And the second one is, okay, we didn't find anything, but we don't have logs which would support that. So basically, we're in a win-win situation. You won't feel bad at the end. You need to define exit criteria so you don't go around the same things all over again. And document negative findings. This is useful in a situation, especially if you have a big environment that you're working in, where you are constantly bombarded with all sorts of data, and you basically forgot. I mean, we all have short-term memory, and you don't remember what happened yesterday or what you ate 5 days ago. So how could you remember something that happened especially in the big environments? So this is something useful to document, and in the future, it will pay off. And so some additional ways to improve. Use 90-10 approach. This one was quite interesting for me when I learned it. And what does it mean? From 100%, so the total amount of time you're using for threat hunting, 90% of time used for preparation. If you do that, then 10% of time you will do actual threat hunting, and you won't get lost throughout the process, and you will understand what's your actual goal. Combine creativity with already familiar. You know, there are different creativity techniques which are useful, and if you're familiar with the environment, you will easily get creative to understand and to get more ideas how can you find something, improve something, or in the end create a detection rule which will cover some specific cases. And also avoid complexity. Keep it simple. Don't lose yourself into creating some movie scenarios which are possible, but quite rare, because in the end you will get really hyped up, but you'll get hyped up, but in the end you will be kind of disappointed. And also, you will also have some sort of finding, as I mentioned before. You will know, you will have something to prove, you will have something to work on, you will know if it's malicious or not. And for the last one, manage your expectations. Expectations are everything here, because if you start to doubt in yourself, you will start losing the focus, you won't be creative anymore, and by the end you will just stop threat hunting and possibly start avoiding security at all. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope you didn't slip through after lunch, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you, Filip. A quick question from my side while you think of your questions. So what you find yourself mostly hunting for? Is it like there was an incident and there was an artifact on one machine, and then you're looking for that artifact in the entire environment? Or have you woken up in the morning, looked at, you know, Hacker News, and you found some new fancy attack? There is some IOCs, there is some hashes, some binaries, and you just think, oh, I had the whole afternoon to kill. I will try to find those. Or are you like going through like Mitre and, okay, I haven't seen this threat actor in my house. Let me double check whether or not any of his TTPs have ever been here. So what do you find yourself hunting most for?
Well, I would say it depends the context of the organization I'm currently in. What is my current job? So this is something that changes on weekly basis. I don't always do the same thing. So I don't know, I might be sitting behind my laptop looking outside. It's a sunny day, I could go outside, no, I'll do threat hunting. And I tend to do some things that are not so common because I find it the most appealing. So those weak signals, like I try to correlate things to see if something is going on or not. So there's actually no specific topic which I'm covering.
So what you're saying is, for all of your SOC managers out there, you should keep your SOC super engaged and overworked, but your threat hunters idle and boring, so that they have free time on their hands to look for things you never thought of actually searching for.
Exactly.
Yeah, good. Any other questions for Filip? Okay. While we are waiting for the slow walk down the runway, just a quick reminder, there has been some slight change in the schedule for today. So some shifts from track 1 to track 2. So do check your agendas so you don't go to the wrong lecture later on. So do check your phone and check the schedule. And the screens. Wait a minute, we can't hear you.
Thank you. So let's say I conduct 10 threat hunts and none of them was successful. How can I improve on my mistakes and make a successful threat hunt?
I would say that you need to consider the search space constraints. So don't keep it too broad or open-ended hypothesis, which will allow you to find something. Or in the worst case scenario, as I mentioned, you will find that something is not parsed or data is missing, so you find a blind spot, which you can use as a leverage to say, okay, I didn't find anything, but we can improve it by adding this data source.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Over here in the lady in the first row. Wait for the microphone. The recording will not catch you. You will be incognito if you don't use the mic.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Just a short question from me. Maybe you can tell us about the most interesting finding that you found recently, maybe.
Well, this is a good one, but and I think it would be a great story, but unfortunately I can't the most recent one because it's still under investigation, a little bit more serious. But I can tell you that in, let's say, last year or so, we've managed to find let's say, sort of data exfiltration through some web server that was exposed to the internet. That was quite a tricky one.
Anybody else? In that case, I thank Filip one more time for his presentation. And have an owl.
Oh, nice.
Now we have 15 minutes till the next lecture. Do come back. It will be about cybercrime, cryptocurrency, and all of the fancy stuff. So